So a month ago, this Shiva came in. That was the one where someone had put in the 32 amp fuse. And this guy's road crew has been trying to kill this amp for years. The previous videos linked in the description below. And he gets it back, everything's cool. He goes out on the road again now that there's a road to go on. And I get a call the other day, and he's in Oklahoma. And this cap had fallen out, just fallen out. Here's a photo of that. And I called him and said, "Where are you?" Because I know good techs in Dallas, Fort Worth, and in Oklahoma City. And he was right in between. But there was this local guy down the road, and they needed it for a show. I took it to the local guy, and I said, "Well, great, when you get there, have him call me if he has any questions." And I didn't get a call at that point. And here's where I'm not sure what exactly happened. I got a call from the guy's road tech saying that the guy at that shop could not do anything. Had never seen anything like this. He mostly works on cars. But that the guy's road tech had pulled the board and resoldered this capacitor. But if you don't work on guitar amps a lot, you should never pull a board in a Shiva. It's a lot of stuff that can be messed up in the process. But then the owner tells me that they did take it to some guy in Oklahoma City who said it was fixed and it was $200. So I don't know whether it was some guy who charged him $200 not to fix this properly, or $200 for some spooge, or whether the road crew guy did this. But this capacitor here that had fallen out, let me get this to focus for us. Someone put in new leads, hopefully from the bottom of the board, and then tack soldered to that cap, as opposed to just resoldering that cap properly. Now, if this had been brought into me as it was with the cap floating free, I could have put a new cap in there without pulling the board. I don't know what the sequence of events here was, but I said, sorry about that. I said, as soon as you get back to Memphis, bring it in. We'll get you up and running. And they're leaving town tomorrow for another leg of the tour. So let's see if we can do this. Now, like I said, if this had been brought into me without anything else being done, I could have repaired this fairly easily. But now, because the board has been pulled and that crappy solder work exists, I now have to pull this board. You know, when I first saw that photo of the cap falling out, I thought, lead-free solder joint gave way. It happens. You know, it's not a real ding against Bogner. They're forced to use lead-free stuff. It's just the reality of things. And then when the tech told me that he had pulled the board and that things weren't working, a more cynical tech than I am would have said, "Ka-ching!" And I was just like, oh, fuck me. Let's see what they've done to my amp. Item 1, every nut holding these pots in place is only barely finger tight. That won't do. All right, so I'm gonna have to tighten these two in case these pots don't have to come out. All the others, after I pull the boards, I will tighten them up properly. Well, I am calling bullshit on the road crew guy's claim that he pulled the board so he could fix it, because there is no way to get this board out without disconnecting these wires here, and these are factory solder joints. Now, someone might have tried, but these are still as they were from the factory. So I'm gonna have to undo these, get the board out, and then put them back properly. Fun. All right, I found the problem. Here's this wonderful bunch of junk up here on the other side. Now that you can get to the other side, let's see if I can get this to focus. Let's get this to focus. Right here. That pad has no solder connecting that pad to the trace. So some of this I'm gonna have to, I can't do this while filming just because the angles of things here, but I'm gonna clean this up and show a real fix, because that ain't it. All right, now that that cap is out and all that white goop is gone, I can see that the pad on top has also lifted off, and it's barely hanging onto that trace, but this runs over here to pin 8 of V1. Let me get this to focus a little bit better. And if this had come to my bench and this cap had fallen off and I could see everything, there wasn't all this goop here, I would have said, that looks like it's a cathode bypass cap. And without having the amp in front of me, I could not tell that from the photos because this says C1. And the two schematics I have of the Shiva show this cathode bypass cap as C3. So now I can tell, because it's in front of me, that this cap is just a cathode bypass cap across this resistor right here. And if this had not been so gooped, I could have seen this instantly, but I couldn't see this where this trace went because of all this stuff here. So nothing needs to be here where the damage is. I can put a new cap, a 1 microfarad stock across this 1.8K right here. And that's very easy. And then we don't have to have something over here. Now, is it nice to have a great big film 1 microfarad that'll never need changing? Sure. It would have been nice, but the traces are so fucked up from nincompoops working on this thing. So now, pulling the board was totally unnecessary, which I would have known if they had not put all this gunk here and had not boogered everything up. I could have just snipped this out, put a cap here, and been done. So the guy, his tech said he pulled the board. He did not. I'm not sure what's going on. I was told that he took it to some guy in Oklahoma, charged $200, still not working. If the guy in Oklahoma did this, shame on him, shame on that $200. Now, this is an emergency thing. They're going on the road tomorrow. I have them at my financial mercy. Mwahaha. I will not do a rush charge on this. This is pretty simple now, and I get this nice educational video for everyone. And to, when you take it to a bad tech, $200, and the problem gets worse. Take it to a guy like me, someone who's really good. Yeah, I charge $150 just to look at an amp typically. I'm expensive, but I also do really good work. And I might have done this for waive my bench fee because it would have been so simple if it had been brought to me. Now, granted, the guy was on the road in Oklahoma. Scott, I know you're going to see this. You should have used your Marshall as a backup, even if you don't like your Marshall. Just reality. But we'll talk about replacing that Marshall with something that you do like. But anyway, this is the fix. This is not a necessary thing. And if it hadn't been so effed up, I could have just popped a new cap there. But we'll just stick a new 1 microfarad across here, and life will be good. Viola. That's all that was necessary. That's not a $200 job. If someone had just looked at this smartly in Oklahoma and said, oh, that goes to pin 8 and that goes to ground, that's just a cathode bypass cap, they could have just snipped the old, left the old one out and put almost anything in there temporarily. 1 microfarad is nominal, but just to get them through the gig, stick a 10 microfarad, a 22 microfarad across the same resistor or whatever. In this case, I just happen to have a 1 microfarad in stock because I carry a lot of stuff just to have around because it's useful. Now, before I put this back together, let me go through the underneath of the board and make sure nothing else is weird. If you're wondering about this, the owner of this amp, Scott, had at one point had 2 functioning Shivas, soon will again, and he liked the sound of one a lot better than the other. And he brought them into me, and the one he liked the sound of better, the resistor, that resistor there in the boost had failed, and he liked the sound of the boost circuit without that resistor in the circuit, so I lifted it on this amp. The other one was originally the better sounding. That way he has had two identical sounding Shivas. He soon will again. I've got to rebuild the other one, but because it had been used for spare parts by evil road techs. So let me go through the bottom of the board and make sure that I'm not missing anything before I button all this up. But, I think he'll have a happy ending. I see that closest connection there that's barely soldered. That's the ground from the input jack. That could also be a problem, don't you think? And I see a few other little things that just need a touch up of solder here and there, but overall everything's fine. So Let me do that and we'll put it back together. See how it sounds. All right, and the verdict. All better.